He has told the details of what happened that night no less than 9 times. Okay? And he was on the witness stand for 5 days when he testified. He has had to repeat this over and over and over. Can you imagine telling the details of something that happened to you 9 times and not having minor inconsistencies in what you said? I mean, it's completely natural. But he, Mr. Ephron, was locked into his statement on November 8, 2021. You could even argue that he was locked in on November 6th, the day of the shooting, because he started sending text messages to the defendant, to 12, 2 Ills, 2 John. He was locked in with all of them, telling them this was a real gun, sending them pictures of the cartridge cases. Focusing, though, on that important question of was this a real gun or a prop gun, when is the first time that's raised, that this is a prop gun? You heard in the testimony from ASAP 12 and ASAP Lou that the first time this comes up, I guess, is August of 2024, and they are only going to tell the defense attorney. So they held that all-important information for over 2 years, almost 3 years, before then they're going to tell the details to the defense attorneys only. You found out that it was only turned over to us the day before jury selection started in this case. And then you found out that Lou's statement was actually changed about, where the gun is now. That was changed the day that he came in to testify. That timing alone defies credibility.
Objection, or then mistakes the evidence.
The idea that they would not be running into the police station to tell their story is absurd. So let's focus on their stories. ASAP Lou, I've already talked to you about how he's conflicted in this case, how he relies on the defendant for his financial, livelihood. You should view his testimony as being very convenient. His story changes, and he has a perfect explanation for everything. He came in, he told you a story to explain away the evidence that would obviously point to the defendant's guilt. The primary piece of evidence that he needs to explain away, that Lou needs to explain to you so that you no longer see the defendant is guilty, was why was the defendant carrying a fake gun? Lou's going to answer that for you. And why did the defendant have a magazine for a Glock 43, which just so happens to be the same type of gun that's consistent with the gun that fired those 2 cartridge cases that Mr. Ephron located? Why does he just so happen to have that same magazine in his bedroom closet, the defendant's bedroom closet? So how does he answer the question of why the defendant was carrying a fake gun? Again, we went through the whole thing of extreme violence that the defendant's facing, and their only reasonable response to that is to carry a fake gun. We've already talked about how that defies any logic. Keep in mind, though, that apparently, even though that was Lou's advice, the defendant doesn't follow that advice completely, because he literally sleeps next to a 44 Magnum Desert Eagle, a real gun, which is in reach of his bed. Not much further away, he has a rifle and a shotgun. What he did not have anywhere in his house was a prop gun or any prop ammunition. Obviously, if you were the victim of a violent crime, the response to arm yourself with a real gun is preferable to this whole prop gun thing. Clearly, that's something the defendant also agrees with. Lou was very clear that the fake gun that he alleges that the defendant had, which he said he personally modified, was modeled after a semi-automatic pistol. That's Lou's testimony. And here's where it becomes painfully obvious that Lou did not fully think this through. He didn't fully flush out the story before he came in to tell you. He had to tell you that he modified the gun by adding that belt clip and by putting that magazine extender on, so that he could explain why that gun had those small things that Twelby could just so conveniently come in here and tell you that in the heat of the moment, when it's quickly pulled, he saw those two same features, that tiny piece of metal on the side that would hold it to your belt, and the magazine extender, so that their stories match, their stories line up. If you accept that the defendant had a fake gun that Lou just described, you would also have to explain why there are no fired, fake, prop cartridges at the crime scene. Because the gun that Lou described, this prop gun that existed, that's a semi-automatic prop gun, would operate just like a real semi-automatic pistol. And it would shoot those cartridge cases out the side just like a real gun would. So why are there no prop cartridge cases found at the scene? In his opening statement, Mr. Takakina made a big show of pointing out how 7 or 8 LAPD patrol officers scoured every inch of that street of Vista Del Mar. They walked up and down with searchlights, and they didn't find anything. They definitely did not find any prop-fired ammunition. Now, he obviously did that to argue to you that Mr. Ephron planted those cartridge cases. But he actually discovered them at the scene after the police had searched it. So there's no cartridge cases. He comes back and he plants them. But he forgot that if the police are as thorough as he's saying, that they also would have found the ammunition from the defendant's gun. That painfully contradicts their own defense in this case. You know, do you want to? I got your notes. Do you want to take a break now? Or?
It's up to you. Is this a convenient spot?
I'm going to move into.
All right, let's take a break now. Folks, please be outside the courtroom doors at 10 minutes after 11. At this time, we will resume. Please don't discuss the case.